20.
Broadcasting across the state of Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and around the world on the Civic Media app. This is the Dom Salvia Show. And now, here's your host, Dom Salvia.
And welcome to the Dom Salvia Show. Happy Wednesday to us all. 855-752-4842, 855-75 Civic. Jess PS is on the board and on the phones doing the sound. Thank you, Jess. Super jazzed to reintroduce our friend Matt Rothschild joining us in studio. Former editor and publisher of the Progressive Magazine, former executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, and author of 12 Ways to Save Democracy in Wisconsin. Matt, it's been a while. I got it all in my head now. Welcome back, dude.
Always good to be with you, Don.
Thank you. Big show today. We have Greg Palast. He's an investigative reporter coming off of his show in Madison at the Barrymore Theater a couple of weeks ago. He's going to join us at 4:30. Also, State Rep Francesca Hong, she's out canvassing today. She's going to join us as well at 5 o'clock. And, of course, you can join us 855-752-4842. Matt, I think we need to start where we ended yesterday. The Vice President Harris at the Ellipse giving her speech. I got to listen to it in the car when I was leaving the studio. I had a little drive to get back to Milwaukee, and I thought she was great. And it really reminded me of her convention speech. I thought it was a nice bookend from then until now. We have some cuts. We'll get to it. Matt, what was your takeaway?
I thought she did a great job. I mean, on style points, she was totally in command. She seemed really relaxed, very comfortable, easy to listen to, but, easily someone you can imagine as commander-in-chief and right there in the Oval Office behind her. So I thought she did a great job like that. And as a prosecutor, as a trained prosecutor, she really knew her case and she delivered it great. And she, and substantively, she made incredible points. She savaged Donald Trump there. I thought she eviscerated him, both for his criminal behavior on January 6th and for his economic policies that are helping the top 1% in the billionaire class, as Bernie calls them. And she reached out to Republicans. She used the word Republicans 3 times. She reached out to independents. She, reached across to people who aren't even going to vote for her. So she was very, accommodating. And I think the theme of, getting beyond the divisiveness, I think there's a real hunger in this country to get beyond this really nasty divisiveness that's ripping the country apart and get to something better. So that was the last thing I thought she did real well. She offered hope of a better future for us. You don't get that from Trump.
No, we certainly don't. Yes, the divisiveness, it's exhausting. And I thought she had a nice balance between, prosecuting the case against the felonious Mr. Trump, and then offering a vision for the future. It's got to be, you can't be all not, anti-Trump. You also have to offer something else, and I thought she did a fine job in doing that. What about the symbolism, Matt? The Ellipse, this is the scene of the crime, just over 4 years ago, man, or about 4 years ago. What do you think it was appropriate? Do you think she has replaced what happened? This is hallowed ground, man, and Trump summoned the mob at this location and stuck them on the Capitol to attack, to stop the vote, to overturn the election. This is where it happened, and this is where she gave her speech. What about the symbolism?
Totally appropriate to be there. It's not only hallowed ground, it's contested ground. There are the people who still, are in favor of the January 6th rioters. Trump, top of the list. He said he's going to pardon all of them and let them all go. And she mentioned that last night. Yeah. It was totally appropriate for her to be there and to show America what's at stake here. For me, January 6th is the be all and end all of this election. Yeah. If you thought January 6th was okay and you're still going to vote for Trump, you're on the opposite side of me here, and I don't know how we bridge that divide. How can you be for a coup? We don't have coups in the United States. We're not Bolivia, for God's sakes. We're a democracy where we have a peaceful transition of power. Trump tried to not have a peaceful transition of power on January 6th right at that spot. So I was glad she chose that spot and offered us both a vision of something better, but also a sense that, those folks do belong in jail.
Right. Oh, come on. They were attacking the thin blue line. The law and order party, apparently they're law and order, except when it comes to their politicians. We do have some sound, Matt. We'll do it in sequential order. And again, I thought Harris's description, reminding us of who Donald Trump was, she got it out right in the beginning, and I thought it was appropriate. Remind everybody and then give them something else to look forward to. Jess, if you would please, let's start with cut number 1. We know who Donald Trump is.
We know who Donald Trump is. He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election. An election that he knew he lost. Americans died as a result of that attack. 140 law enforcement officers were injured because of that attack. And while Donald Trump sat in the White House watching as the violence unfolded on television, he was told by his staff that the mob wanted to kill his own vice president. And Donald Trump responded with 2 words: "So what?"
I like the sirens in the background there. I love that.
Well, I got to be honest. As I was driving home last night listening to this, I kept looking around my mirrors because
is that making you a little anxious?
It was, I speed a little bit. That's how we get home faster. And I just where these sirens come from?
You go hiding the illegal substances too?
Right. I just got to get out of Racine County, man. I thought it was great. The reminder, and I don't think it's anything that we should forget about. And I'm with you, Matt. This has stuck with me from that day. We were, I don't know if you remember what you were doing when this was happening.
Sure
I know
do.
where I was that day. I was on the air as it was happening, and we were reporting that the Capitol Police were advising the House and Senate members to put on their gas masks. Put on your gas mask. And you see all the bravado from the megas, but in the moment, in that time, you see senators running, right? You see people freaking out, and laying down, trying to avoid what may be coming through that door, loading up and blocking, barricading the doors. Republicans were doing that too. And then all of a sudden afterwards, what happened afterward? People came out against it. Everyone was immediately against it. And then time passes, and then everybody comes around and gets back in line in the mega party, and it's all to be forgotten. But I don't forget, Matt.
What do you mean? I thought Lindsey Graham was getting off the Trump train that night.
Everybody was.
Yeah, one of a dozen times.
Let's keep going from Vice President Kamala Harris at the ellipse last night. Cut number 2, e pluribus unum.
You see, what Donald Trump has never understood is that e pluribus unum, out of many, one, isn't just a phrase on a dollar bill. It is a living truth about the heart of our nation. Our democracy doesn't require us to agree on everything. In fact, we like good arguments from time to time. Just think of your own family, right? It's not the American way to not have disagreements. We don't shy away from robust debate. In fact, we like a good debate, don't we? We like a good debate.
She likes hard work and a good debate.
And the fact that someone disagrees with us does not make them the enemy within. That's right. They are family, neighbors, classmates, co-workers. They are fellow Americans. And as Americans, we rise and fall together.
Again, a spot of unity, Matt. It's something that I don't hear a whole lot coming out of the Trump campaign these days.
Yeah, I like this part both because she brought up the enemy from within, the outrageous comment that Trump made that does have an echo of Goebbels and Hitler, and then talks about, we rise and fall together, that we're all one family. So it was the negative and the positive, and really done in an artful way, I thought.
The next cut, number 3, stop pointing fingers and locking arms. I love this phrase. Let's hear it, please, Jess.
America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. And it can be easy then to forget a simple truth. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It is time to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. It is time to turn the page on the drama and the conflict, the fear and division. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're into it.
And I am ready to offer that leadership as the next President of the United States of America.
The crowd goes wild. I've seen reports of up to 75,000 people. Turn the page, man. This is a Bob Seger or a Metallica moment. Depends what version of Turn the Page you like. But that resonates with me, man. I want to turn the page, man. Can we please, good God, turn the page?
Yeah, and, she stressed several times in her speech, division, chaos, drama, conflict, the stuff that Trump, just breathes out at us all the time. And people want to get over it. The vast majority of Americans want to get over it. And I bet huge percentages of women want to get over that. And I think she was appealing to them there, too. She also was echoing JFK with this new generation of leaders. Mm-hmm. He said that in his inaugural address after catching the baton from Dwight D. Eisenhower. So for old folks like me, there's an echo there, too. So, I mean, I think she was reaching out here to Americans who, they're tired of all of Trump's nonsense. They're actually tired of Biden, too. And so turn the page actually is turn the page on both of them. And I think that's what people want.
Let's slide in one more, Jess. Donald Trump, the
Not
tax
quite
cuts.
enough time.
Come on, 11 seconds. We can do it. Cut 4, please.
Donald Trump would deliver tax cuts to his billionaire donors. I will deliver tax cuts to working people and the middle class.
Again, a contrast, very specific. Donald Trump has been very, very vocal about where he will be, what he will do. Come back with us, Matt Rothschild, 855-752-4842.
Kept the beaches shipwreck free, though I respect that a lot. I'd be fired if that were my job. After killing Jason off and countless screaming Argonauts, new bird of friendliness, like guardian angels, it's always near. New canary in the outlet by the light switch, who watches over you? Make a little birdhouse in your soul, not to put too fine a point on it. Say I'm the only bee in your bonnet. Make a little birdhouse in your soul.
And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. That's a call line. That's a text line. We see you there, callers and texters. Be patient. We will get to you before our next guest at the bottom of the hour, Greg Palast. A new film out, Vigilantes, Inc. Easy for me to say. Vigilantes, Inc., America's new vote suppression hitmen. We're going to dive into that for a few minutes with Greg. I got Matt Rothschild in the studio with me as well. We got a few more cuts from Kamala Harris on the ellipse last night. And Matt, I love the next one. Anytime Trump and the wannabe dictators. Let's play cut number 5, please, Jess.
These United States of America, we are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictators. The United States of America is the greatest idea humanity ever devised.
Let's jump down to cut number 7, please.
If you give me the chance to fight on your behalf, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way.
Man, I thought... Yeah, go ahead.
That was her showing her strength and also kind of echoing Bill Clinton. You know, Bill Clinton, who always said, I wake up every day to fight for you. I'm just fighting for you. Bill Clinton, the great salesman. But she's picking up part of that successful campaign, too.
And I thought it was important for her to stress, talk about a little bit of the foreign policy and how she will be strong. And, we've had callers and people talk, well, some of the world leaders and our adversaries think she's a joke. I'm thinking, well, do you want your adversaries to be supportive of your candidate? Because I don't know that you do. You know what I mean? Just a couple more. 855-752-4842. Love this one, too, Matt. The enemies list and the to-do list, cut 6. Mm-hmm. Nope. Keep going. All right. Well, let's keep going. Trump.
But let me just talk about that.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
This has become a new phrase that she used. That she tried it out the first time at the CNN town hall with Anderson Cooper. And at the end of it, David Axelrod gave some commentary. He said, she did okay, but the thing she really did was that line, and she should keep repeating the enemies list and the to-do list line, and she's done that ever since. She took his advice.
And we'll take his advice as well. Just let's hear it.
On day one, if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When elected, I will walk in with a to-do list.
And Trump is, he's very specific, man. He labels his grievances every single time. You can't have a 2-hour rally, unless you got to fill that time, and he's got lots of enemies, man.
Including me and you, especially me, crazy left lunatic.
Oh, my God, the enemy. We played a clip the other day. He said enemies 5 times in one sentence referring to the media. 5 times! That's the most I've ever heard. I think it's a record.
And again, enemies of the people. That was Nazi propaganda, totally.
And what, America's for America's and America's only? Didn't
how'd you like that?
What sound? It's all being replayed again. 2 more from Harris on the ellipse. Let's do cut number 8, please, Jess.
America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
When she puts it like that, it sounds really bad, man.
She's got him to a T, doesn't she? Everything she says about him is just right spot on. And so I love that part of the speech, too, where she just eviscerated him, pinned him, and made him wriggle on the wall, as T.S. Eliot used to say.
The last cut from Vice President Kamala Harris and the ellipse last night. Those who came before us, cut number 9, please.
And those who came before us, the patriots at Normandy and Selma, Seneca Falls and Stonewall, on farmlands and factory floors. They did not struggle, sacrifice, and lay down their lives only to see us cede our fundamental freedoms. They only to see us submit to the will of another petty tyrant.
I thought that was the best passage of the speech, actually, because he is a petty tyrant. But also notice how she talked about the Patriots, the greatest generation fighting World War II at Normandy, the civil rights activists at Selma. Seneca Falls is the women's rights movement. Stonewall is the LGBT nonviolent revolution that's been so successful in this country until now, until all this anti-trans stuff that every single Republican candidate, including Eric Hovde and Donald Trump, seem to be throwing at our computer screens and our phones. But I thought that was a very beautiful way to depict the fight for greater freedom and liberty. And she is you saw the big sign behind her, freedom. She's been recapturing the word and the concept of freedom for those of us on the Democratic and progressive side, and we all owe her a debt of gratitude for that.
Yeah, it was eloquent and it was spot on. And I would also say Donald Trump, disparages those groups. Hell, even the greatest generation. What's in it for them, right? Suckers and losers. That's right. The quote from his own people. And by contrast, and left unsaid, perhaps, Matt, the patriots that Trump likes, well, those are the ones that try to overturn the government on January 6th. 855-752-4842. Greg Powell's coming up next. Let's squeeze one caller in at least. Andrew from D-Town. Welcome, Andrew. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dom. I have to disagree with Matt, your guest, on this country, unlike Bolivia, doesn't have coups. We've had 2 coups, the Civil War and the insurrection, January 6th.
Unsuccessful coups? I mean, is it a coup if it doesn't work?
No, I'm not saying they're successful, but intended coups, if nothing else. And here's something else. In Germany, after Germany fell, Hitler falling in Germany, you don't see swastikas on flagpoles in Germany. You don't see statues of German generals and whatnot. You don't. And here in this country, we left such stuff standing for so long. It is the same folk who, during the Civil War, went after the capital of this country, that their progeny tried to do it again.
They certainly did, Andrew. Thank you for the call. Yeah, come on, man. I saw a guy in Janesville at Trump's first time around walking around with a Confederate flag. It was in January 6th. It made it through the Capitol. Folks, this is the Dom Salvia Show. Matt Rothschild joining me. Greg Palast, investigative reporter, coming up next. Stick around.
Hello, Greg. Can you hear me? No, we just lost Greg.
Here he is.
Welcome, Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
I love when that happens.
Okay. How does the sound look? Sound. How does the sound?
The sound sounds good.
Okay. It's cool. Do you have
It's cool. It's great.
If you don't, I don't care.
All right. We'll be coming back in a minute.
Okay, great. Glad you've got commercials. Keeps you
Hey,
on the
Greg,
air.
good to see you. Matt Rothschild here.
Yeah. Hey, Matt. I know. I was listening to you.
Long time, my friend.
Yeah, too long. We miss you at the, frankly, I love Norman, but we miss you at the Progressive.
Well, it's sweet of you to say.
Yeah.
But
It's
he's
a
keeping
tough
that
time.
baby afloat, so I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. Yeah. They gotta push the net though. That's where everyone's going,
Right.
Well, we'll see. So what are you doing these days?
Doing a little of this radio.
Hmm.
$15.
On a long, lonesome highway east of Omaha, you can listen to the engines moaning out his one old song. You can think about the woman.
And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show. Thank you for listening. Got Jess PS on the board, co-hosting with my buddy Matt Rothschild, and jazzed as hell to reintroduce to you Greg Palast, known for his investigative reports for The Guardian, bestsellers including The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. Just released the new film. I know some of our audience in Madison went and checked that out. Vigilantes, Inc., America's new vote suppression hitman, narrated by Rosario Dawson, produced by Martin Sheen, and Leonardo DiCaprio put it on the stream. You can find it at gregpalast.com. Greg, welcome back. It's been a while, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be with you again, Dom.
It is a pleasure. So, Vigilantes, Inc. Greg, you've been all over voter suppression for years and years.
Yes.
What's the trend, Greg?
Well, here's the trend: is that I thought when there was a coup d'état in 2000, when Al Gore won Florida, and the Supreme Court said we don't care, we're picking George Bush, and so we haven't had a democracy since then. But every 4 years, the GOP, and I'm not being partisan about it, I'm nonpartisan. It's just the facts, man. Comes up with a new method of suppressing the vote of Black people, Hispanics, Asians, American natives. In other words, voters of color, the color blue. And this time what they've done is a brand new thing that hasn't been done in the United States since the Klan used this in 1946. Vigilante vote challenges. It says that I, Greg Palast, can say that Dom Salvia, you do not live in Wisconsin. You should not be allowed to vote. Now, who am I to say that? I'm self-appointed vote fraud hunter, a vigilante. Now, here's the thing. If you go to gregpalast.com, even just watch the trailer, or you can stream the film for free. Thank you, Leonardo, through gregpalast.com. The vigilante challengers, you'll see that I'm challenging I'm confronting one GOP vote challenger, a woman here in Georgia. I'm reporting to you from Georgia. A woman here in Georgia who personally challenged 32,132 people.
Come on, I mean, how can you challenge? You don't even know 32,000 people.
Wait. Well, here's the thing. So she challenged, and I can't make this, 32,132 people. I show her a photo of someone, say a Black neighbor of hers, a young Black woman, Tamara Horn. And I said, do you know Tamara? No. Ever talked to her? Oh, no. Ever been to her house or had any contact with her? No. Well, you challenged her right to vote and 32,000 others. And she says, well, I don't have time to call 32,000 people, but you had time to challenge their votes. I said, by the way, that could violate the Ku Klux Klan Act, at which point she threw me out of her Gone with the Wind mansion. And I wasn't going to argue with her because right next to the front door, she had ammo all over the place, assault weapons. She had a loaded AR-15 next to the door. So I didn't continue. But you'll see this confrontation in the film. And then I confront another vigilante. Now, this guy actually dresses like a vigilante, Alton Russell from Southern Georgia. And he dresses up, cowboy boots, cowboy hats, pearl-handled six-shooter in a holster, which he pointed out to me was loaded. And he personally challenged 4,000 voters, including, and most of those voters he challenged were black soldiers at Fort Benning, Georgia. The black soldiers at Fort Benning, including Major Gamaliel Turner, 70 years old, career military. And
terrible. And
Turner calls the Georgia, and now, by the way, you might think, oh, this guy's just a freak with his Doc Holliday getup. No. He may be a freak, but he's also chairman of the Republican Party in Southern Georgia.
Oh,
chairman of the Republican Party. He challenged 4,000 black soldiers. Now, Turner, what he did was he challenged soldiers who were assigned to other military bases, so they weren't at their home address. Well, believe it or not, American soldiers assigned to another base are allowed an absentee ballot. In fact, it's a military absentee ballot, even if they're black soldiers. Believe it or not, even black soldiers are allowed to have an absentee ballot. Right. So he calls up and says, "Where's my ballot?" to the county officials. And they say, "Oh, Mr. Turner, you've been challenged." He says, "Well, what does that mean?" He says, "No problem. You just come into our office."
Come in.
And he said, "Wait, you're telling me he's in California, 2,700 miles away, that all I have to do is 2 days before the election, by the way, is show up and prove that I'm an American citizen again?" And by the way, he did send in, he did make an appearance. Ultimately, he flew 5,000 miles round trip. He got his ballot counted, but the other 4,000 soldiers did not. And so this is what's going on.
So it was successful, Greg. It worked. Their shenanigans worked.
Let's put it this way. Now, in that year, that was 4 years ago, the 2020 election, and we were able, I'm working with my partners, NAACP, Black Voters Matter, and Rainbow Push, and we went to these boards elections, gave them the information, and even the Republican boards rejected almost all. Not in Southern Georgia, they knocked off about 12,000 voters. If they had knocked off 24,000, obviously Trump would have taken Georgia. Now, here's the danger. 4 years ago, there were 88 vigilante challengers, and those 88 challenged 180,000 voters. This time, the same group that fielded these guys, this is True the Vote out of Texas, the Trump Front organization that did, that film 2,000 Mules. So, and you'll see clips of that film in our film, Vigilantes, Inc. Now, what happened was they've gone from 88 challengers. Are you ready? They've signed up 40,000 challengers. And as Martin Sheen says at the beginning of the film, at the beginning of August, 2.5 months ago, they'd already challenged 851,000 voters. 851,000 voters. And by Tuesday, we expect 2 million voters to be challenged. Almost none of these voters have been informed that they've been challenged. They're supposed to get these cards, but most counties have no way to they don't know what to do with this stuff. It would cost millions of dollars to deal with this, to make people go into these offices. So this is the new mass challenge. And I'm afraid the NAACP, I just spoke to Gerald Griggs, the NAACP, head of the NAACP, and he's in our film. And he said, we expect 300,000 to 400,000 challenges in Georgia alone, including on election day and the day after election day, to stop the counting of mail-in and drop box ballots, which are the way that the majority of Black people vote in Georgia. So you're seeing, and all these people, even if they mailed in their ballot, if they are challenged, their ballot cannot be counted. I want to repeat that. You could think you're voting, but you aren't. The other is that a lot of people be challenged and be given provisional ballots, say, oh, and the lady behind the desk will say, oh, here, take a provisional ballot. Don't worry about it. They'll count it. No, they won't. 4 years ago, according to the Elections Assistance Commission, 10 million provisional ballots were handed out like candy, and 2.7 million of those ballots were rejected. And I want to tell you something.
Wow.
If you're a voter of color, the chance that you will be shunted to a provisional ballot is 300% higher than if you're white, and the chance your ballot will be rejected if you're black is 700% higher than if you're white. So provisional ballots have become another new place for dumpsters for black votes. The vigilante challenges will kick this off. And by the way, they are a ton of vigilante challenges in Wisconsin. If you're listening to this from Michigan, if you are challenged or you have a problem, do not take a provisional ballot. It's a placebo ballot. You think you voted? No, you haven't. So what you do is, in Wisconsin, you can register on election day. They may not tell you that from behind the desk. Re-register on the spot and then demand a regular ballot after you register. That's what you got to do.
Folks, you're listening to the Dom Salvia Show. That is investigative reporter Greg Pallas. His new film out, Vigilantes, Inc., America's New Vote Suppression Hitman. Greg, I mean, we take this to the extreme, then everybody can challenge everybody's, and where does that leave us?
It leaves us with 851,000 people. And I got to tell you, all 88 challengers in Georgia were white Republican officials.
Couldn't we go then and challenge all those white 88 challenge? Why can't we go after them and do the same game that they're playing?
Absolutely not. I mean, the voting rights group says if that's happened to you, you don't want it to happen to anyone else, even your worst enemies. But we are now talking about suing them personally because they've defamed people. They violated the Ku Klux Klan Act, like this wacko in red. Well, I say wacko. She's a Republican party official. She works for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why don't we go after them legally? So they'll have to spend $50,000 on lawyers. That might make them think twice about taking away their neighbor's right to vote.
Yeah.
This is ugly, and you'll see it all in Vigilantes, Inc. Again, stream it for free. Go to gregpalast.com. The other place you can go is saveyourvote.org. Save your vote, not mine or Dom's or Matt's. Saveyourvote.org. And you can check your registration there, by the way, and you can also stream the film.
Hey, Greg, Matt Rothschild here.
Hey.
I watched the film this morning. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
You do mention the Bradley Foundation, which is located in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
What role are they playing in this? You mentioned a lawyer who used to practice for Foley and Lardner, Cleta Mitchell. What role is she playing?
God. Yeah.
Okay, so the True the Vote vigilante attacks are being funded principally by the Bradley Foundation. Thank you very much, Wisconsin.
It's not our fault, man.
So if we, I'm in the deep South, but the money's coming from the deep North. From the people that unemployed tens of thousands of workers that formerly worked at Allen Bradley and up in Milwaukee. Once your biggest employer, they sold out and everything was moved to China. And now they're going after your vote because there's an old rule. They can't take away your job, can't take away your health insurance, can't take away your hopes unless they take away your vote. So that's what the Bradley Foundation has been doing. They put about $2 billion into vote suppression efforts,
Wow.
$2 billion. And Cleta Mitchell, who is still their foundation's lawyer and advising True the Vote. Cleta Mitchell, I don't know why she isn't indicted along with Donald Trump, because she was on the call to the Georgia Secretary of State saying, quote, find me, and don't look on between the sofa cushions, find me 11,780 votes. She's the lawyer. And the other lawyer on the call, Eastman, was indicted. I don't know how Cleta Mitchell got out of that one. But these are the people that are running the vigilante vote system. And by the way, Cleta Mitchell has her own vote challenge group called Eagle AI. By the way, if you recognize that name, Eagle Eye, which is how she pronounces it, Eagle Eye, that was back, if you remember, in the 1964 when Barry Goldwater ran. He had all these basically stormtroopers going into Hispanic polling stations led by this right-wing fascist named William Rehnquist. I don't know what happened to him, but anyway, later. But William Rehnquist was leading this campaign to go into Hispanic voting stations and ask and demand that people prove their citizenship. So they've picked that same Eagle AI is now back with Cleta Mitchell. They've challenged 10,000 people in Florida Their aim is 250,000 challenges by election day, but we're talking 2 million by just True the Vote, which, by the way, as I keep saying, I'm not for vote fraud. If you have 2 million illegal voters, give me the names of 2 of them so we can go and arrest them. I'm not only asking you to prove 1 out of a million. 1 out of a million. They went to court. They couldn't prove 1 single illegal voter on their list, but yet every judge has said, hey, fine with me. Fine with me. Stop these votes. This is brand new. So please, and watch the film, because this vigilante game, if this decides the election, because I think it's I don't care who you want to vote for, but I think that the voters, not the vigilantes, should be picking our president. And look out, it's going to get violent too. We talk about the violence of these vigilantes. That's another issue that you see in the film.
Greg Palast, investigative reporter, his film, Vigilantes, Inc., America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen. New, kind of old, kind of retread, but here we are again. You can find it on gregpalast.com. Greg, I know you've been very busy. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dom. Thanks, Matt. Peace out.
Folks, this is the Dom Salvia Show. Come back with us, 855-752-4842. And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842. Jess PS is on the board. Matt Rothschild is in the studios. And we're going to get to your calls momentarily. I want to thank Greg Palast, investigative reporter, for joining us. Vigilantes, Inc., America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen. Find it on gregpalast.com and other sources as well. Matt, I got to tell you, man, I was swearing during the break. This is some... I can't say it. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, Greg Palast is all over this, and I do recommend that people see the film You can see it for free. I watched it for free this morning, so
Right.
it's quite interesting. And he actually has that guy who said, who he described as Doc Holliday. He had that Doc Holliday meet the colonel whose vote he was suppressing at the end.
Oh,
And he
really?
kinda
How'd
got
that work out?
Kind of got an apology out of the old guy, so that was kind of interesting. To
An
watch.
apology? How about a reimbursement for my time and my flight and my meals and my hotel and a little something extra for the effort? You know what I'm saying?
No, he didn't. He didn't get that. So anyway, yeah. But I do want the listeners here in Wisconsin to know that despite these right-wing efforts by the Bradley Foundation, by Cleta Mitchell, by these vigilantes, make sure you go vote. Don't be intimidated by these folks. You've got to vote. You got to exercise your right to vote. Vote. You can still vote early for the next few days, or you can vote on November 5th on Tuesday. Make sure you show up so you can cast your ballot. It's your right as an American citizen. A couple of the people in the film Civil Rights Activist that Greg Pals was interviewing whose rights were violated, they were in tears. They were in tears because they couldn't vote. All of us who have the ability to vote, who are citizens here in Wisconsin, we have an obligation to vote. And it couldn't be more pivotal, this election. So I just want to make sure that people aren't scared to vote. You'll be fine. There's a lot of protection there at the polls. Go vote, cast your ballot. Let's get Kamala Harris elected here.
Absolutely, Matt. I mean, if these things, these issues, these efforts to suppress the vote make you mad, go vote. Go vote. I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. 855-752-4842. We got some callers lining up. Let's get to them. Joe from Madison, you are up. Welcome, Joe. What do you got for us?
I just want to say thank you so much for having Greg Palestine. That was absolutely pivotal. I, again, encourage everybody to hit the streaming and catch that. That's how they want you to view it. You don't have to watch it in the theater. It's there for your free streaming. Just hit the website. I wanted to encourage you and the management at Civic Media to do something with this idea that he had where he said, if your vote is challenged, you can re-register at day of when you're voting. I think that's a really, really important point. Instead of getting a provisional ballot that maybe you kind of, maybe not, you can re-register and vote right there. I really would encourage your management to look at a short promo that would say, number one, what do you have to take if you want to register day of at the polls, and if your vote is challenged, how you re-register at the polls would be really fantastic. So short, punchy, air it a lot before Tuesday. That would be fantastic. Just wanted to throw that into the mix, guys.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Duly noted. The powers that be, I'm sure they're listening now. I would recommend that as well. And you can also go online and check out your registration status there as well.
And the League of Women Voters has great information, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, about what you need to register to vote on voting day.
855-752-4842. Let's get to a few more callers. Dick from Madison, you're up. Welcome, Dick. What do you got?
Hey, guys, how many states are there that are, these swing states that everybody's focusing on? Seven,
yeah, 7-ish, right?
Something like that. Okay. And then let me ask you another question. 3.5 million, 7+ million. Those are the two numbers that Hillary Clinton won by and Joe Biden won by. And yet I got to listen to these people on MSNBC, one of them saying, oh, it's such a close election. You know why it was? Because we don't get rid of something that's just absolutely absurd. If the Democrats do not take that up when she wins, the Electoral College I'm talking about, first of all, none of us would have had to go through this turmoil for the last 8 years. He lost by 3.5 million votes to her. So how is this really a democracy? Well, I mean, I'm sorry. The most points wins in any game. So how in the hell?
Not in golf, Dick. Not in golf. Thanks for the call, man. Matt, I'm down. I mean, get rid of the Electoral College. I was out with Maggie last night. We came up with our ideas. Get rid of the Electoral College, shorten the election cycle to, maybe 90 days, 120 days, have some publicly financed races, elections, right? And rate choice voting. I mean, do we not want our elected officials to be representative of those folks that they're supposed to represent? I mean, it seems like logical to me. Do you think they should go after, if Kamala wins, they go after the Electoral College, Matt?
I'm all for it. It'll require, I believe, a constitutional amendment. I'm not a lawyer, but I can play one here on radio. I think you need a constitutional amendment for that. But it's, we've needed it for a long, long time. And the last, 25 years have showed us why why we really need it. For those people who thought, we'd never get into a situation where the popular vote is different than the electoral college outcome. Guess what? We've had it twice, and we might have it a third time here in the last 25 years.
Yeah, majority rules, except when it doesn't. Jake from Milwaukee, we can give you 45 seconds. Welcome.
Yeah. How does the Bradley Foundation get away with their illegal activities? Because, I mean, to me, over the past decades, they're horrible. There are horrible people who give money to try to, destroy our democracy. I'm just sick of it. I mean, I'm sick of the Bradley Foundation.
Me too, Jake. But they can donate their money to these organizations, and what those organizations do with the donations, I guess, is up to them. Thank you for the call, Jake. Matt, you stick around. Jess, you too, please. Folks, this is the Dom Salvia Show. 855-752-4842. We're gonna have State Rep Francisca Hong coming up next.
Hello, Representative Hong. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can. How's it going?
Going well, and I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Excellent. Love to hear that.
Me too. All right, we'll be coming back in about 6 minutes. 2 minutes.
Hey, Dom, can you hear me?
He can't hear you.
He can't?
I'll get him on.
Hey, Dom, how do you want to start with? Do you want to start with her about Kamala Harris or about Tammy?
Sure.
Or
Yeah. Let's talk about the national and then go local and see what she's doing. She's out canvassing, right?
yeah, for this guy, Spouty.
Spouty, Rowdy, like Spouty.
Ryan Spouty, yeah, in the Green Bay area.
One minute.
1 minute.
I'm turning your mics back off.
All right, thanks.
$30 seconds. $15.
Broadcasting across the state of Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and around the world on the Civic Media app. This is the Dom Salvia Show. And now, here's your host, Dom Salvia.
And welcome to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Thank you so much for tuning in. Got Jess P.S. on the board, Matt Rothschild joining me, co-hosting today, and jazzed as hell to introduce to you Wisconsin State Rep Francesca Hong, representing Wisconsin's 76th Assembly District, out on the road doing some canvassing. Francesca, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dom. Hey, Matt. Very excited to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you so much. Before we get going into the local state politics, I want to get your sense of how the election's going, how you felt VP Harris did in her big speech last night at the Ellipse in D.C. What's your thought?
I mean, I think those were her closing remarks, right? The impression that she wanted to leave the American people with was that she is going to be a president that is recognizes who we are as Americans, that we are not here to divide one another, but we need someone who can unite us. And I think that was what many folks needed to hear. And I think the location, delivery, and the vibes of their speech were very symbolic.
Yes, it was a great speech, and the symbolism was telling. Here in the state of Wisconsin and lots of places, Francesca, it's tight. It's out there. Now, everyone's up for election, right? But you're in a pretty safe spot. What are you doing today, Francesca?
I am here in wonderful Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I'm canvassing for a fantastic candidate who is running for the state assembly, Ryan Spouty, like Rowdy. I was hitting doors earlier this afternoon and had some folks who were very excited that they were very excited to vote for Democrats, but didn't quite know. I had two people who didn't know who Ryan was yet, so it was exciting to tell him that I just chatted with him, how he's going to be fighting for his communities, and I even helped one person find out where her early voting site was. So canvassing works, folks. If you're anxious about the election right now, go knock some doors.
What are they telling you at the doors the most important issue is to them?
I had more folks who were willing to talk issues with me. Actually, when we were in Appleton earlier this morning, I hear a lot about abortion and reproductive rights. we have folks who are also talking about public education. There's over 190 districts that are going to referenda this year. And we know that strong public schools make for strong communities. And so issues that are very close to folks' communities and to their families are the things that they're going to be talking about. So I hear a lot about public education, abortion, and tackling rising costs. And I'm glad to hear now folks are able to name the villain a little bit more, right? We should be having everyone talk about price gouging and corporate greed, because that is ultimately one of the biggest reasons as to why we are in the current economic situation we're in today.
And the villain on the public education issue goes back to Scott Walker, because he was cutting back so savagely on funds for public education, right?
Absolutely. When they don't want to deal with the problem, they go after folks. And so they attacked our educators. They attacked union workers. Well, the cornerstone of democracy is public education. And there's a reason why they've been aiming to dismantle it, undermine it, and underfund it for the last 13 years.
Francesca Hong, Wisconsin State Rep from 76th Assembly District. Francesca, the national conversation versus the local conversation. Now, we heard about abortion rights a little bit. I'm curious what your sense is when it comes to other of the national issues. There's a big push here recently of talking once again. Joe Biden was doing it for a while, and of course Harris came on and kind of talked more about freedom. But now, more recently, have been talking about the danger to democracy. Is the danger to democracy and supporting democracy, is that something that is resonating, or is that more of a national conversation in your opinion?
I certainly think democracy is still top of mind for Wisconsin voters. I mean, they have been watching us become a voter suppression state. Gerrymandered states are voter suppression states. And so there were questions I answered yesterday about, hey, I don't have a driver's license, but I have a passport. Is that okay to bring? I mean, that's after the voter ID laws. There's questions about, things that are slowly starting to sow doubts. You can take that from the constitutional amendment question that we have about non-citizen voting. And so democracy, I think, maybe the word itself feels big, but it's one that is absolutely connected to freedoms. And it's one that folks are worried about when you've got a fascist who's running for office.
Yeah, Francesca, I'm sorry, Matt, let me just go one more and then you can go. Folks, you're listening to the Dom Salvia Show. Wisconsin State Rep Francesca Hong joining us. The economic issues, it's always about the economics and the table issues. What's your sense? I mean, I think people, in my opinion, Francesca, kind of forget what it was like under Trump. I mean, the whole pandemic thing, I blocked that out a little bit myself, but depending on how you look at it, if you look at GDP, if you look at unemployment, if you look at, job growth, those kinds of macroeconomic things, I think it's difficult to say that we're worse off now than we were then, especially given the circumstances. But it still seems to be some headwinds with the inflation and people's personal pocketbooks. How is the economic conversation going, Francesca?
Working families are struggling with rising costs. And I think that one of the ways that we can combat that and really talk about how to address it is to talk about solutions we can do at the state. When we make investments in childcare, when we make investments in public education, when we go after folks who are in corporations who are being greedy, when we raise the minimum wage, which we can do at the state level, folks start to think about, okay, I do understand maybe a little bit more about how we got here, but what's going to be the immediate impact to my pocketbook? And I think when you start talking about the ways that we can make investments now so that you do not have to struggle as much now, people start to think, and we can't underestimate voters when it comes to what is going on in their lives, what is happening to them, they're not going to want to think about GDP and trade wars. But I think it is really important that we affirm, we don't lecture, and we talk about ways that the state can make the investments that they should have been making a while ago to start alleviating costs for working families.
I mean, I think that's the main point. Matt Rothschild talking here, Rep Hong. I mean, people feel, the price, when they're paying for car insurance or when they're paying for rent. And it does hit them hard. I mean, it's just hard to make ends meet for a majority of people in the state and in this country. And the huge percentage of people's incomes that go to pay rent or their mortgage, it's just outrageous. And so we need to, I think you're right. We need to speak to people where they're at. I want to ask about, what the Republicans are throwing at. They're not throwing solutions here. They're both at the state level and Trump, they're doing two issues: anti-immigrant and anti-trans. And I know the guy you're campaigning for, Ryan Spouty up there, he's been facing the some of the ugly anti-trans rhetoric. How to respond to that?
Ryan, at his core, is someone who cares deeply about his community, protecting his communities, and knowing that everyone deserves to feel safe. He can speak to his lived experiences when he's talking about those issues, but he also knows that we are not being solution minded when we are just trying to point fingers. That doesn't get anything done. And so I think Ryan speaking very much to how he's been able to overcome adversities and not take the bait, right? We know that when they are trying to divide and conquer, they do that with distraction and bigotry and hate and fear mongering. That's what the right has always aimed to do, to try to distract us from the solutions we can actually do and work on together. And so Ryan is interested in getting things done. He knows that the real issues that folks are dealing with right now are those rising costs, are access to childcare, making sure their kids are safe in school. These are issues that Ryan wants to tackle, not be distracted by hate mongering culture wars, where Republicans are going after less than a percentage of the population because they can't seem to deal with the issues themselves.
No, it seems to be all they got. I want to switch gears to another issue, and that is the presidential race. You're one of the most progressive representatives we have in the state capitol. And you have also been sympathetic to the plight of Palestinians in Gaza and critical of the military aid to Israel for this war they're raging. Some people who have those views are saying they can't vote for Kamala Harris. And I know when I posted something in favor of Kamala Harris on Facebook, people were calling me a neocon and stuff like that. I'm wondering how you respond and try to get the Jill Stein folks to see the light on voting for Kamala Harris.
The war on Palestinians and the dehumanization of Palestinian life has been devastating. And I think that the response from communities is that we are hurting, we are devastated, and we have a ticket that is not speaking to our communities and what is most important to our communities right now. I fully affirm that grief, and I see it and I feel it as well. But what I want to make sure is that this movement, the uninstructed and uncommitted movement, I think is the most amazing display of democracy that this country has seen in a while. When you build a movement and you're mobilizing people from all different races, faiths, zip codes, who want to fight for change, who want to lessen suffering, that is democracy. And for those folks, for us to continue to build that movement, we have to have the fertile grounds and the conditions to do it. I want to fight back against the Harris administration that is not doing enough right now for an arms embargo, for a permanent ceasefire, and to stop killing Palestinian lives. I won't be able to do that work with the community that I need to work with under a Trump administration. So while those feelings of deep pain are incredibly warranted and the horrors in Gaza have to end, we need people power to do it. And that power can only come about with movements that are created through organizing, through becoming a multiracial coalition. And the conditions in which to do that will happen, but not under a Trump administration.
Wisconsin State Rep Francesca Hong, the last 60 seconds, a lot of folks are concerned, perhaps intimidated to get out and go vote, who to vote for, where to look for to find out their information, whether they're registered or not. What would you do? What would you tell people here in the last several days before this election to calm their nerves and to get them out to vote?
Knock some doors, text 3 friends to ask them what their plan to vote is. Make sure your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, folks, all of the group chats, I want you to go into those group chats, ask people what their plan to vote is, and then tell those folks in those group chats to go to another group chat and ask them what their plan to vote is. Early voting here in Wisconsin is going on through November 3rd, and then you can register and vote on November 5th. Polls open at 8 a.m. Polls are open till 8 a.m.
State Rep Francesca Hong, Wisconsin's 76th Assembly District. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Not to put too fine a point on it. Say I'm the only bee in your bonnet. Make a little birdhouse in your soul.
Twenty seconds.
And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75 Civic. Couldn't do this show without Jess PS on the board and our friend Matt Rothschild in studio with me as well. Thank you for sticking around. I want to thank our most recent guest, Francesca Hong, Wisconsin State Rep from the 76th Assembly District. She's amazing. I really like her. And she's out. She's in a safe seat, out going, helping other folks out. Ryan, what's his last name?
Spouty.
Ryan Spouty up in Brown County, up in the Green Bay area, knocking doors, canvassing. You know, there is some therapy perhaps to that if you get out and talk to some folks. Because you're not going to be, when you go out and knock doors, they're not going to send you to the mayor's house. They're going to send you to the folks that are likely to vote or have voted or haven't voted yet, those kinds of things. And I think there's a lot of community there. And I know, here in Milwaukee, there's a lot of get out the vote efforts going on this weekend. It's crazy. From here on out, it is a get out the vote party until Tuesday.
And a sprint. And on Tuesday, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you're in line at 8 p.m., they got to take your vote.
They got to let you vote.
That's right. If it's 8 o'clock and there are 30 people in line, stay in line. Make sure you cast your ballot.
855-752-4842. Before we move on to other topics, let's clear out the board. Mark from the SAC, you're up. Welcome, sir. What do you got for us?
Yeah, well, it's first off, it's pretty disturbing about this whole armed militiamen going after people at the polls and the whole challenging the vote thing. Complete violation of the 14th Amendment, that when the right to vote is denied or abridged in any way, that I think that the Bradley Foundation and the others that are supporting this should be brought up on charges of supporting this effort, and it's just deeply, deeply disturbing. With the Supreme Court now saying, oh, yeah, it's okay what Virginia did there. Well, they just approved Virginia violating the Constitution because, as I just said, the 14th Amendment, people are probably tired of me talking about it, that under the 14th Amendment, amended, of course, by the 15th, 19th, 24th, and 25th Amendments, that we all, if you're over 18 years old, you're a citizen, you have the right to vote. And if that right to vote is denied or abridged in any way, then in this case, in Virginia, it's the state that's doing it, then the state should pay the consequences of it and then lose representation in Congress. That's what the Constitution says, and of course our Supreme Court, who does not have the power to decide the constitutionality of laws, explicitly under the Constitution, it's not even implied under the Constitution, but the right to vote is both implied and explicitly talked about. If a right is denied, then you have the right to vote.
Thank you for that, Mark. Certainly, and this is the Virginia case you're referring to, and there's like 1,600 some voters were now allowed to be purged from the list, I guess, right? The voter rolls were purged, and this overruled a lower court ruling, Matt, that found that it was within the time frame. They need 90 days. It was not individualized as well, and there was some evidence, according to the lower courts, Matt, that there were actually U.S. citizens that were on this. But I guess when we talk to Greg Palast, and if you in some of these states can just go willy-nilly challenge anybody, anywhere, anytime for no reason and no consequence, well, I mean, what does it even matter at this point? And one further thing, Mark, certainly we have registration before we can go vote. Is that a abridgment to our right to vote? I mean, if you're a purist, an originalist, perhaps, maybe. But the good news is, regarding the Virginia situation, back in 2022, according to the Virginia Department of Elections, they instituted same-day voter registration. So if any of those folks were kicked off the rolls and they go and do their vote and find out that, no, you're not on the rolls, they could right then and there, assuming they have the proper identification and paperwork, register to vote and then cast their ballot. So I didn't read the ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, but at least there is some fix to that. It would be certainly a shame and unconstitutional, in my opinion, if it was beyond the registration timeline.
And we do have same-day voter registration here in Wisconsin. So if you're not registered yet, you can go register here in early voting and go register on November 5th. If you wonder what you need to bring, go to the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin. You can find out from there what documents you need to bring. But make sure you do it. Make sure you vote. The other thing that, we have Attorney General Josh Kaul here in Wisconsin, our lead law enforcement officer. And I've heard him say on Civic Media that he's prepared to investigate any allegations of voter intimidation here in this state. So you should feel comfortable going to the voting booth, that you're not going to be harassed by people. And if you are harassed, those people can be hauled into court.
Yes, if you are harassed, report them. I mean, and this is the thing. And we saw, what was there, a story of some teenager in Florida that had a machete that was like harassing some older women. They got into a confrontation and he ended up getting his ass arrested. Well, F around and find out, man. And what are you even doing? Leave people alone. I mean, they want to go vote. This is, I'm not sure that that's a way to win people over to your side. When you threaten people in any circumstance.
Yeah. And law enforcement is ready. And the Attorney General is ready to prosecute anybody who's bringing a weapon trying to intimidate people at the voting booth. That's not allowed.
855-752-4842. Before we move on to other topics, Nikki Haley has popped up, and I was a little surprised. And we talked recently about, well, how come Donald Trump hasn't, when he has Madison Square Garden rally, where's Mike Pence? Where's Nikki Haley? Where are any other Republicans? I guess they did have Speaker Mike Johnson with their little secret, but the majority of our traditional Republicans have totally turned their back on Donald Trump, or vice versa. They're no longer, wanted at the party. They're no longer allowed in MAGA. These traditional, old school Republicans, like Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan.
Yeah, no Speaker Paul Ryan.
Where's Speaker Paul Ryan? And it's one thing, Paul Ryan, Nikki Haley, all you others that has said, no, we're not. I don't know if Nikki said it specifically, but Paul Ryan certainly said, not going to vote for Donald Trump. Great. You going to vote for Kamala Harris? Because not voting for Donald Trump is a vote for Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? You know what a danger he is. All items that you list as objectionable to voting for him, and then you're going to just not play the game or write somebody else in. Nikki Haley had some comments on the Madison Square Garden rally. We'll come back with that and your calls, 855-752-4842.
Two minutes. 10 seconds.
And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Just PS on the board, on the phones. Matt Rothschild in studio joining me. Thank you, Matt. And callers, we will get to you shortly. Please stand by. We'll get to you. Matt, the Nikki Haley sound. I mean, is this an endorsement? I don't even know. She was on Fox, I think. Let's just roll out the former ambassador to the United Nations under Donald Trump and his former presidential political rival, and now endorsing? ? Let's hear what Nikki had to say.
They were right to denounce the comedian. They need to go and tell Puerto Ricans how much, they do value them. They need to tell Latinos that, but they also need to look at how they're talking about women. I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable. You've got affiliated PACs that are doing commercials about calling Kamala the C word, or you had speakers at Madison Square Gardens, referring to her and her pimps. That is not the way to win women. That is not the way to win people who are concerned about Trump style. This is a time to talk about the economy. This is the time to talk about immigration. This is the time to talk about national security. And this is the time to talk about Kamala Harris.
Not a ringing endorsement for Donald Trump there.
I mean, I don't believe that they care. Honestly, man. She says you got to reach out and let the people, the Hispanics and Latinos and Puerto Ricans know that you value them. Do they? Do they value them? I don't think so. It seems actually a little bit of the opposite of that. And to my understanding, that those jokes said by that dude, Kill Tony, I think his name is, were vetted because they pulled off literally a C word joke that he was going to say. So they did see that and they let it through, and apparently that's it. And there's Nikki Haley. So and the women, the bromance. I mean, I think that is, and say what you want about Nikki Haley, that is an astute observation. And being a white dude over here, yeah, that's got to be. Well, let's ask the resident woman here. Do you think, Jess, that the outreach to women is the way that the Trump campaign is doing it is working?
I think it's a little lacking. Just a little bit. In the sense that it's terrible. But they should really keep at it the way that they're doing it.
Only a few more days. So an endorsement? I'm not sure.
I mean, it sounded more like just some mildly aggressive finger wagging.
And maybe, but is there any time, Matt, to turn this around to say, oh, hey, our bad, we really want, the Latino vote. We really want the Puerto Rico vote. We really want the women, a woman vote.
No, the die is set here.
Yeah,
the die is cast. And you don't hear Donald Trump apologizing himself for that comedian. No, he said it was,
he's incapable.
It was a great event. It was another love fest. Just like January 6th was a love fest, a day of love there in Madison Square Garden. I mean, they haven't been reaching out to women at all. I think Nikki Haley, she may be one of those Republican women who goes into the voting booth and votes for Kamala Harris and comes out and says she voted for Trump.
Right. You never know. And folks, you can do that. If you're on the right, if you're a Republican, if you're a MAGA and you're thinking, oh my God, I cannot possibly. You know what? Your vote is private. Now, people may know if you vote. That's fine. That's a public record, but they never know who you vote for. So if you're one of those disaffected conservative women, if you're one of those disaffected Latinos, a disaffected Puerto Rican, a disaffected Republican under any circumstance, race, creed, ethnicity, whatever, you don't have to. You can just nod your head. Yes, yes, yes. Go Trump, and then go and vote for Harris.
Julia Roberts has voiced an ad aimed at just those Republican women, saying that you can go in and there's a picture of two Republican women in adjacent voting booths, and they're looking at each other in the eyes, and then they both kind of nod, and their pen was going to Trump, and then they fill in the little the little ballot for Kamala Harris, and then they go outside and tell their husbands, yeah, they voted for Trump. So it's a doable thing. A little white lie never hurt.
The omission of the truth is not a lie.
An orange lie. I love that.
855-752-4842. Let's get to it. L.A. Tom from the leftist coast. Welcome, Tom. What do you got today?
Hey, guys. I just want to remind people that Tuesday it's supposed to rain in the great state of Wisconsin. So you may want to get out the vote early. So therefore, you're not standing in the rain if there's long lines somewhere. So vote early if you can. Also, I'm still waiting. They talk about the economy. I'm still waiting for Scott Walker's 250,000 jobs. once he said to Will Hendricks that we're going to divide and conquer was going to be their strategy. So it sounds to me like that's where this all started, and I think it's time that Wisconsin puts this to an end and votes in Kamala Harris and all Democrats up and down the ballot.
And I just want to say that there are a lot of great groups here in Wisconsin trying to get the vote out and the early vote out. Souls to the Polls, Block, Voces de la Frontera, SEIU, Pastor Lanier. All these people are doing great work in Milwaukee and around the state to get people to vote early. So, if Kamala Harris wins, and I believe she will win, it's because of activists like that are turning out the vote.
And every single one of you going and voting for Kamala Harris, because we love democracy and we love freedom. And what we don't like are little tyrants. Like
petty
crazy
two-bit tyrants
and old men that weave. They can't even finish a thought. No, thank you. God, why? No, people. But only a few more days, and then we'll know. And then we'll see. Matt, what's your expectation? When do you think we will actually know who the winner of the election was?
I think we'll know on November 6th. It may get challenged, of course, because Trump can never admit defeat. He's the worst spoiled sport in the history of sports and the history of politics. But I think we'll know. I think Kamala Harris will have sewed it up by maybe 3:30 in the morning on November 6th. I hope so.
Okay, that's my shift.
All right.
There you go.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. 855-752-4842. 855-75-CIVIC. Also reminded here on the text line, vote no on the constitutional amendment referendum. Yes, good point. Good reminders, folks. Vote no. No. Generally, anytime you have Republicans messing with the Constitution, it's probably just a good idea to, if you don't know what it's about, just say no. Annie from Watertown, you will be next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
I'm thinking back to a couple elections ago or so when the Republicans were quite open about, well, gee, we have to attract, please, minority voters and everything, and it never really crossed their mind.
That's right, Annie. They did a review of their election laws, an autopsy, and decided, hey, this is where we need to go, and then immediately, elected Trump. I mean,
yeah, it's not like that they could change the way they do things or legislator talk. It was just basically, what can we do to trick them into voting for us?
And then, then you have people like Bob Spindell, who's trying to suppress Black and Latino votes in Milwaukee and then bragging about it. And he sits on the Wisconsin Elections Commission.
And was also a fraudulent elector.
Yeah,
and he still sits on the Wisconsin Elections Commission. You got to be kidding me. 855-752-4842. I want to get to President Joe Biden's comments, as well as perhaps some of the polling that came out, Marquette University Law School poll. I'm looking to book Mr. Charles Franklin for tomorrow, but there's some top-line numbers I want to get to with you as well. But first, let's clear the board. CJ, you are up. Happy days, CJ. Welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Well, thanks for taking my call, Dom and Matt.
Hey, CJ.
As you called that, Trump is a threat to democracy, there's only one attorney general in court fighting to keep illegals on the voting roll. You're the only party that tried to keep RFK Jr. off the ballot. Now you're trying to keep him on the ballot.
Now, you're throwing a lot of things out there. Hang on, CJ. Let me address a couple of things, man. You got to let me go. That was the U.S. Supreme Court that said that RFK Jr. needs to stay on the Wisconsin ballot, right?
Well, the mere fact you're fighting, why are you?
But the U.S.
fighting to
Supreme
keep him on?
CJ, that's
Because
the conservative U.S. Supreme Court that said RFK Jr. has got to stay on the ballot, right? That you can't put little stickers.
How about that? It's the
But hang on, I just pushed back on your statement because this was a conservative Trump-appointed court that says you're wrong, CJ. This isn't some sort of left-wing progressive effort. They looked at the laws and they applied it, and they went against Virginia today as well. You don't see me saying, "Oh, this is a." Do you think that is also a left-wing coup to try to keep 1,600 people on? Or do you think that perhaps the lower courts saw that they were within the time frame, there wasn't an individualized purge, and in fact, there is some proof that some of those folks were actually U.S. citizens, CJ?
Well, and they should be able to approve it, Dom. That's the point.
So we're agreeing
your
then.
Party is. Pardon me?
We're in agreement, right? RFK Jr. should stay on the ballot. You agree with that?
No, I don't. If he doesn't want to be on the ballot,
but that's just not about. Come on, hang on a minute. It's not about want to be on the ballot. You can want to be on the ballot, but don't qualify for the ballot. You're not on the ballot. And once you're on the ballot, to get off the ballot, you have to do certain things within certain time frames. And he didn't do that. I mean, you know the rules of the game when you get into play the game, CJ, and you can't just say, well, yes, that awesome wisdom of the U.S. Supreme Court and kicking those 1,600 people off of Virginia's rolls, although they do have the same registration. But there's some left-wing conspiracy to keep RFK on the ballot. Those things don't match, CJ. Your philosophies are contradictory. But thank you for the call. Matt, any comments on that?
You know, I'm just hoping CJ will remember what he told me once, that, you know, he didn't like what happened on January 6th either. And so I don't know how he can go from there to voting for Donald Trump. I know, you know, tax policy, some economic things, but I don't know why he isn't disturbed by Donald Trump in the ways that you and I and a lot of our listeners are disturbed by Donald Trump when Trump talks about the enemy from within and using the military to go against them. I've got to believe that somewhere that CJ himself recognizes that that's not the way a president should act. And I hope CJ will consider that when he goes to the polls.
Well, and I think you're right. And I think there's a lot of folks that initially, well, the history will show you. Look at all the Republican politicians that stood up after that. I mean, the same night when they went back into session and condemned what Donald Trump and that group did. And then over time, everyone just kind of like, oh, well, you know, at least he's our guy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, he's our guy. But here's the dirty little secret. Fascist friends, they eventually turn on you. You know, you're a supporter. You're eventually going to be a coffee boy. And what are they going to do? I mean, remember the old Stalin photos, Matt, where they all of a sudden they just kind of erase the people off the photo? Well, you know what I'm saying? That happens. That happens in fascistic societies. And if we don't operate under the rule of law, aren't you the rule of law party? How can you be the rule of law party? Donald Trump has yet to face trial for his efforts to overthrow the government on that day. And he has promised he will release all the quote-unquote patriots that have been convicted for injuring and assaulting more than 140 Capitol Police officers.
Yeah, he'll release them and he'll haul off people who are working in restaurants and dairies all across Wisconsin. Do we really want to see that?
Now, good luck with that, because a lot of those farmers might be conservative leaning, but you take away the labor force, you're going to have a lot of cows getting mastitis. You're not going to, the butter's going to be kind of chunky. No more cows.
No more anything.
No more anything. There is a little more on this fine show. 855-752-4842. Matt, I want to, in the last segment, talk about the current president, Joe Biden.
Do we have to?
I think we have to, man. How do we not? Joe Biden stepping in a little bit, responding to the garbage, quote-unquote, joke said at the Madison Square Garden rally. He took some exception to it, and I guess perhaps it's open for interpretation, or was it just foot in mouth? One more segment. Matt Rothschild in studio with me. Just PS on the board and your calls. 855-752-4842.
$30 seconds.
And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Our last segment of the day, so if you got something to say, hit us up right now. As promised, Matt, we need to eat our broccoli, and this time it's coming from Joe Biden. A little bit of reporting from, found this one at the BBC, but it's everywhere out there. Biden tried to clarify his comments after he appeared to call supporters of Donald Trump garbage, sparking conservative uproar. He was responding to a comic who courted controversy during a routine at a Trump rally Saturday, referring to Puerto Rico as an island of garbage. Quote from Biden, "The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters." Biden was initially quoted as saying on Tuesday, prompting Republican backlash. The White House later released a transcript which included an apostrophe and said the president was talking about the words of Trump rally comedian Tony Hinchcliffe and not tens of millions of Trump supporters. The transcript reads, "The only garbage I see floating out there is Trump's," in parentheticals, "supporters, ... His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable and it's un-American." Biden himself later addressed his video call with nonprofit organization Voto Latino, writing on X, quote, "Earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. The comments at the rally don't reflect who we are as a nation." Well, unfortunately, Mr. President, it might reflect some of who we are as a nation. So, excuse me, Republicans, if we take it for what it is, let me just assume you're right. And he was talking about every single one of you. Spare me your righteous indignation. You're voting a guy that has called people every name in the book from day one. Nothing but name calling coming out of your camp. And so if the old guy messes up something, which I don't believe it's political suicide to call everybody garbage. I don't buy that. I think he misspoke. And I will accept his reiteration. Do you? And if you don't, are you really that angry? Because if you are, maybe you're also a hypocrite. Because if you let your guy get away with it and your crew and your Republican Party, your mega party, all they do is spout name calling. And now you're all upset? Oh, no. Give me a break. Sorry, Matt, you go.
Well, I just wish Joe Biden would, just be quiet till the election's over. We don't need any more public appearances by the current president, who's been a better president than I thought he'd be. I'll give him some credit for that.
Absolutely.
But at this point, I mean, he is a terrible candidate. He's a terrible surrogate for the candidate. Thank God he's not the candidate of the Democratic Party right now. I know the staff did its best. I've heard of creative accounting. This was creative transcribing. I don't buy that apostrophe that he was just talking about the comedian. If he was, he should have mentioned the comedian. Said comedian. And it was just a bad misstep at a time where we can't afford any missteps. And Joe Biden's made a career out of missteps, and he does a lot of missteps these days. So we don't need any more Joe Biden.
What about the righteous indignation of those who call people names all the time and then all of a sudden get mad if they're called a name?
I think they're snowflakes, right?
You're calling them names. You're calling them names. It's just, and I get it, man. We're on the air, we're on the airwaves, we're FCC regulated. I want to bring people together, man. I love the love, but if you want to get down and dirty and start name calling, man, get me off of FCC. I will light some MFers up. You know what I'm saying? I have the capabilities and ability to do that. But I don't want to do that.
As the person who hears him when he's off air.
I want to be better. I want to be better than that. I do. I want to bring people together. I want to get away from that kind of stuff. But don't give me this, Republicans. It's such phony angst, especially considering who the leader of your party is.
Well, they've been taking a beating since the Madison Square Garden unfortunate
rightfully
event.
so.
And this was the first thing. This was just the first lifeline they could grab at.
Right.
So they grabbed at it with both arms. So that's why it was
that's where we're at. And that's where we're at. So I don't condone that. I mean, I don't think Biden meant it. And if he did, he retracted it and restated perhaps.
And Kamala Harris disowned it too. Let's
and she disowned. She absolutely
Trump
did
not disown the garbage at Madison Square Garden. Kamala Harris came right out and said, "This isn't my view at all."
Well, somebody said the according to the campaign, Matt, they immediately said, "Oh, this doesn't represent who we are." But then J.D. Vance went out there and says, "Hey, come on, people, can't we take a joke? Oh, it might be racist.
Maybe it was a stupid racist joke. Maybe it wasn't.
Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen
the joke, dude? Seen it? What are these? The funnies?
But that's what they want to do, though. They want to be absolutely as racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, and homophobic as they've ever wanted to be, and they want to do it in public, loud and proud.
And they can knock yourself out, but then you're going to be called names back, like I don't know, perhaps garbage. If you're a anti-Semitic, homophobic, racist, knock it out. If that's you, sorry, man, that's kind of garbagey attitude to me. If that's how you are, just saying. Cam, you will have the last word today. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Well, that's like the worst thing you could do for everyone else, because what I got to say ain't too great.
Just keep it FCC compliant, man. We got 30 seconds.
I will, but Elon is giving out free sperm to build a family compound, and he also ripped out $760 million in Bitcoin and put it into 7 different wallets, which is a common tactic to launder money. And he did it right before he said he needed protection before they rip out all the stuff from the economy to crash it.
Elon Musk, there's a winner. Folks, thank you so much for listening to the Dom Salvia Show. Thank you, Jess P.S. Thank you, Matt Rothschild. Thank you to our guest, Greg Palast. And thank you to State Rep Francesca Hong. Tomorrow, Earl Ingram Jr. going to join me, Charles Franklin, and Dan Schaefer, Civic Media's political director. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.